Gorik's Manbreaker led his tribe through the lower passes into the lands claimed by Port Kervian. He cared little about the boundaries of this land, because few could stop an ogre tribe from wandering as they willed. Gorix had been asked by Duke Laguerre to seek out the elves that had betrayed Port Kervian by violating the peace and attacking his forces, and to capture them. The Duke had some idea of brokering peace with the elves this way, but Gorix didn't care much about that either. This task would relieve his clan of a debt owed to Laguerre's family, and so he would go to battle the elves. The main problem is that Gorix is not a smart being, even for an ogre, so he had no real way of knowing which elves were the ones Laguerre wanted. Gorix decided to solve this problem simply by running into the elven lands and capturing any elves foolish enough to engage him. That way, he figured, at least some of those elves must be good enough for Laguerre's needs. Alright, so another narrative battle report. We have the Ogre Khans making their first appearance as a fighting force in league with the Kingdom of Equitaine. Versus the Highborn Elves Michael is playing. We are playing a 4,500 point game with the capture the flag scenario to represent the ogres trying to capture some elves. So we kind of a neat thing we did with this that was a little different. We used for the first time a map from the map pack that is on the 9th Age website. So it's very different from what we've done before, and I find the maps that they have there pretty interesting, so definitely go check them out. But let's go ahead and get into deployment. Okay, starting on the left side for the elves, we have a lion chariot. Next to that is a sky sloop with the Reaper, the Sky, I think it's called Sky Reaper. On top of the hill, you can barely see it up against the back of the hill there, is the first of the Sea Guard Reapers that he has. Then, for the first time, Michael is trying out 20 Flame Wardens. They have full command and the War Banner of Rima. And hanging out with them in the front right corner from this point of view is Lord Fenry of House Whitethorn, who is his commander and battle standard bearer with dragon-forged armor, halberd, and the great bow of Elu. Next to that is a unit of 20 Sea Guard with full command, and I think this is the one with the flaming standard. Behind that is a unit of 20 Lions Guard with full command, and his general is with the Lions Guard. He is Lord Gregor of House Lionsbane. He's a High Prince with Royal Huntsman, Glittering Cuirass, Great Weapon, and the Talisman of Shielding. Next to those is the second Sea Guard Reaper, and then he has another unit of 20 Sea Guard with his mage, Lady Alora Victus, who is a wizard master with 4 spells to pyromancy. And hiding behind this impassable terrain, that's what we're using the mausoleum as, is his second lion chariot. Okay, so on my side, we're going to start on the right here. I have a unit of 9 tribesmen. They have full command and the skull of Keghet. Kegget, I think is how it's pronounced. In with them on the rightmost corner is my shaman, who is a wizard master with 3 spells to shamanism. He also has the Talisman of Greater Shielding and the Ring of Fire. On the front left corner of that unit is my Khan, who is my battle standard bearer with a great weapon. He also has the Armor of Fortune and the Obsidian Rock for some magic resistance fun. Then I have 2 single saber-toothed tigers. Next to that is a unit of 50 scraplings with the scrappling foreman and bows making their appearance again. There's also a musician in that unit. Next is my unit of 6 military veterans with Brace of Ogre Pistols, Full Command, and the War Standard. And for their battle scarred choices, I chose Accurate and Armor Piercing because I'm stupid. I say it that way because I gave them that, and then I didn't really try to play them that way. And the Armor Piercing is kind of unnecessary with the Ogre Pistols, so it was just really kind of a bad construction for me. In the front left of that unit is Gorik's Manbreaker. He is my Great Khan. He has the Mammoth Hide Cloak, Talisman of Supreme Shielding, and Headhunter, and is wielding a great weapon. Next to that is my Frost Mammoth with 2 guys on the back with Ogre Crossbows. Then I've got my Slave Giant and 3 Yetis. So I drop pretty much everything first, so I get first turn. My tribesmen move up with one of the saber-toothed tigers to claim the wall. I do make a mistake here. I do move the scraplings up and then still volley shot with them, so that was bad. So I'm just fessing up to that now. I did remember that I don't get that if I move for the rest of the game, so I just kind of screwed it up turn 1. Then over here, everything moves up solidly onto the hill. I basically know that I need to find a way to take out those Reapers quickly because they're going to be able to punch holes into my unit and make me very sad. And then over here, I run the Yetis out. Basically, I'm figuring of trying to get his Lion Chariot to go after the Yetis. If he goes through the forest, he might take dangerous terrain. And I'm figuring maybe the Yetis could actually kill the Chariot and give me one less problem to have to deal with. So during Magic Phase, the big thing that happened is I shot the Ring of Fire off on the Bolt Thrower and did 2 or 3 wounds to it, not quite enough to kill it. And then it was finished off by my scraplings, which again, I should not have fired as many shots into them, but I did way more wounds than I needed to, so maybe even with shooting less shots, I could have done it, but it's still cheating, so I gotta fess up. Then over here, the pistols from the Ogre mercenaries end up taking out this Reaper, so awesome. I've brought down some of his shooting early. And then we go into Highborn Elves turn 1, and he takes the bait with the Chariot, charges through the forest, and he does take 1 wound from dangerous terrain. And then here you see he moves absolutely nothing else. That's actually not true. The other Chariot on the far side that you can't see is starting to work its way around that impassable terrain. I just didn't take a picture of it. So then he pops off a Scorching Salvo and ends up doing some wounds all around, kills 1 scrapling and does some wounds to the tigers, and that's really all of substance. And then the Fireball following up murders this saber-toothed tiger. And then he goes shooting at the scraplings and kills 4 more of them, so I've only got 45 left. And then his other shooting hits... I think this might be shooting from the his sloop, and ends up doing 1 wound to the mercenary veterans. Yeah, because I think he did try... Yeah, because he did try and shoot all 40 of his shots at the Noblars and only killed 4 of them. But over here, things go bad. I only managed to inflict 2 more wounds on the Chariot before it kills enough to break me, and he runs me down and doesn't even have the niceness to die from dangerous terrain as he's running out of the forest. So he's over there fine and dandy, having only suffered 3 wounds, and I'm down a unit of Yetis already. So I decided to go for turn 2. I'm not going to be overly aggressive. I want to get the charge, not be charged. So I move up just a little. I'm seeing the chariot over here, but I'm still thinking it's kind of a long charge, so I'm okay to kind of play the calm game for the moment. I bring up the saber-toothed tiger to start blocking stuff in case he wants to start moving out. And everybody else comes down off the hill. To help keep the chariot off me, I go ahead and break the spirit off of it to make it have to dangerous terrain if it comes for me. And then the scraplings go off with their shooting and kill all but 9 of his first unit. Oh, by the way, I'm trying to kill, for the purposes of the scenario, I'm trying to kill both of his units of Sea Guard and the Flame Wardens for the capture the flag. But yeah, I do a bunch of damage here. He's not going to panic, but I've certainly reduced the effectiveness of that unit by a boatload. Then I do the shooting with the ogres and kill 1 flame warden, and I kind of remember how much of a pain in the butt these are, as this is going to take a while. So High Elf turn 2, Highborn Elf's turn 2, he decides to go ahead and take the chance. Ends up charging the Ogre unit and gets in on the flank and does not take any dangerous terrain. Or he might take 1 wound from it, but it wasn't enough to really matter. And now he's in my flank. And then over here, he moves all of his other chariots around so that my giant can't get a hold of any of them, which is a little depressing. And everybody starts coming over here just a little bit. The one thing you'll notice is now his wizard is out and hiding behind the dangerous or the impassable terrain. So he pops off a pyroclastic flow on my Merc Vets, kills one of them and does a couple wounds, and uses the fireball to finish off the tiger. Then, during shooting, his sloop here puts 2 wounds on the giant, and his shooting from the Sea Guard end up doing more damage to the mercenary vets, and these guys are just losing a lot of models and a lot of points worth of stuff, and I still haven't really done any significant damage to his elite troops, and I'm very, very worried about that. And then he does shooting with the bow of Elu from his character, and ends up killing more ogres. This is not good. Over here, he did some damage, but I'm stubborn and managed to succeed the roll to turn around. I've done a few wounds to him, but not enough to kill, which is decidedly sad. But now I've got both characters in on it. I should be able to make short work of this chariot next turn. So Ogre's turn 3. I decide to go here and charge his other block of Sea Guard with my mercenary veterans, figuring that I'm probably not going to kill them turn 1, but I'm going to chew them up pretty good. I do not charge with the Frost Mammoth. I've just moved it within an inch of the front of his Flame Wardens and moved the giant around to their flank, mainly because I just want to get the aura for the initiative reduction to as many of these units as possible. During magic, I go ahead and break the spirit on the chariot to get the minus to hit. And then I do some shooting, and looking at it now, I think I actually messed this up. I shoot with the Noblar, or the Scraplings at the Lion's Guard here, but with my bigger characters in the way, I shouldn't have had line of sight on them. So again, I screwed this one up. From the look of it now that I've thought of it, the only thing I should have had line of sight on is that 1 unit of Sea Guard that are off to the side. But again, I'm not playing very well just in terms of getting rules right and crap this game, and it's kind of frustrating. So we go into combat. My ogres kill a bunch of guys, but they take some lumps for themselves. I still win this by a boatload, but because he killed that one guy, I no longer have a rank on him, so he's steadfast and doesn't go anywhere. Over here, I take a few more wounds from the chariot, but I do manage to kill it and turn around to face. And then in Highborn Elves turn 3, he charges his Flame Wardens at the Frost Mammoth, brings the other unit of Sea Guard into the flank of my remaining mercenaries, and backs his wizard way the heck up so that I can't sneak a charge on her, and just kind of reforms his Lion's Guard there. Over here, he tried a long bomb charge into the back of the giant with his chariot and failed it. And then his wizard goes to work. Pyroclastic Flow does all but one wound necessary to the giant, and the resulting fireball finishes the giant off. So, not good. But it is good that to get that Pyroclastic Flow off, he had to throw 4 dice and miscast it. Ends up blowing himself up, and so no more magic for those guys the rest of the game. Super happy about that. Over here, he ends up doing 3 wounds to the Frost Mammoth. I think I killed his BSB this turn, and I lost, but I ended up sticking. I think is how it went. If I didn't kill his BSB this turn, I do it next turn. But yeah, he dies. I just can't see him where he's at in the picture. But he'll die this turn or next turn. But I stuck here, and that's pretty awesome. Over here, I didn't do very well at all. I kill a few more elves, but I'm still taking wounds. My last remaining mercenary only has 1 wound left, and my general just isn't hitting very well, so he's not killing as much as I could have. I do win this combat, but both units stick. Ogre turn 4, I attempt a charge with my Scrappling Bus into the flank of his Sea Guard here and fail it, so they just stagger up a little bit. And my Ogres, I just march like crazy past that fight, hoping to get into an area where I can charge the flank of his Lion Guard. And yeah, that's just a better picture of where I ended up. And during Magic, I get a Totemic Summons off, which is pretty cool, but I'm not sure how useful it is at this point because the Lion's Guard are going to get multiple wounds against it, and they've got all sorts of protection against shooting, so even the Breath Weapon isn't really going to help much, but I got him. Then we go into combat, and they finally kill the last of my mercenary veterans. We do a bunch more damage. There's only one of the side unit of the Sea Guard left. They break and run off a very short amount, but the unit in front does not break and manages to prevent me from pursuing with my general. Over here, I take 1 more wound and inflict 1 more wound. I lose by combat res, but I end up sticking. I think I needed I want to say I needed a 5 and ended up sticking it. So Highborn Elf turn 4. Both the Sky Sloop and the Lion Chariot charge into the flank of my of the Frost Mammoth, and that's bad. He's probably going to die on impact hits. And that's pretty much what happens. He does die to impact hits. You can see the Flame Wardens reform. The sloop overruns into the flank of my general, and the chariot turns around. I guess he didn't kill me on impact hits, because I must have inflicted a wound on him. Because I think I attacked the sloop, trying to kill it before it would overrun into my general. But in any case, I died. Um, then we go into combat here. I decide my general is going to try and kill the sloop, and again, kind of fluffs on the attacks. I did take a wound, but because I stomped and killed one of his elves in front of me, I did get that wound back from the headhunter. And I did 2 more wounds onto the chariot, which is alright. Then we go into Ogre turn 5, and it's charge time. I go ahead and send my 45 scraplings into the side of the flying chariot, figuring that I'll kill that on combat res, even if I can't actually do anything to it. I also go ahead and charge my big Ogre brick into the front of his Lion's Guard. I don't feel confident there, but I've got to do something. I go ahead and charge the back of his, or random movement, I guess, into the back of his Lion's Guard with this guy, which is probably stupid because it's just giving up combat res, but it is what it is. On the plus side, during magic phase, I get off Awaken the Beast to increase the toughness of my Ogre unit, hoping to keep them alive for a little longer. And then we go into combat. So yeah, the Scraplings actually do succeed in killing the chariot. So it dies, they overrun, and although it doesn't look like it because of the hill, they do end up slamming into the flank of the Flame Wardens. So that's super awesome. My general finally manages to kill off the last 2 elves in front of him, and he turns to face, as you see here. And then over here, it gets bloody. I lose a few ogres, but the ogres get the job done. I end up killing all of his swordmasters, or not swordmasters, I'm sorry, Lion's Guard. So that all that's left is his general, and his general breaks and flees. But he succeeds in getting away from me by 1 inch. So he's right there. My guys pursued as you see them. So High Elf turn 5. He charges the Lion Chariot into the flank of the Scraplings. His 1 remaining Sea Guard steps back a few inches and then turns around to try and shoot my general in the back. And he rallies his general. So we go into combat. Between the chariots and the Flame Wardens, a bunch of Scraplings die. But luckily, not enough of them die to prevent me from being steadfast. So I lose by a boatload, but because my general's right there, I still make the leadership check, and they stick, and the Flame Wardens turn to face. During Ogre turn 6, I charge the flank of the now reformed Flame Wardens with my general, and I charge his general with the remaining tribesmen, and it goes my way. Up in the top, the general gets into a challenge with my BSB. He cannot kill me. I think he does a wound or 2, but my BSB just murders him with the great weapon. So he dies and I reform. And my general opens up on his Flame Wardens, and even the Noblars do some damage, so I actually beat him in combat. He breaks and is run down by my general, and that is where the game ends, because he only has 1 model left on the board. Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned this last turn. The Noblars actually beat his chariot to death. They sneak through the 1 wound to kill it. So literally all he's got left on the board is that single model from the Sea Guard unit. You're back, Alora. I take it our forces were routed? Thal asked, his face holding the same emotionless features. Alora cut her eyes at him. Yes, though the lizards were not our foe. Ogres have entered into the fray. The statement left the prince again with a feeling of anger. Once again he was being assailed by another enemy he had no care to deal with. I know what you're thinking, Thal, Alora smirked. We can't bury the city under the sea and return to our people's lands. Oh, I wouldn't do that. I'd wait until their armies were in the city, and then bury it under the sea. Which led Thal to an idea. If worse came to worse, he could live with destroying his enemies as well as his own forces. Lord Fenry and Lord Gregar both fell in battle. Victus sighed in annoyance. Very well. Contact the ogres and offer them fair payment for the safe return, or the return of their bodies. And if they demand more, then gather my knights and I'll take them by force. Alright, so, this one turned into a big victory for the Ogre Cons. Kind of surprising, actually, to me. I thought, just playing through the game, I certainly felt my opponent had a stronger force. I think I'm still underestimating how good all those scrappling shots are. And even at the end, when they had to get into combat, they were dying by droves, but there's just so many of them. They give a lot of static combat res, which certainly can help swing things. So I actually kind of like them. I think the big turning point was, well, there were two big things. What got me with some momentum starting off was killing the two Reapers turn one before they got to do anything. I think if he had gotten to start shooting with those, it would have been a big problem for me. Furthermore, it basically put us in a shooting match early on, and strangely enough, I kind of came out on top of that. But the big turning, because I still think he was doing better. He was certainly killing the mercenaries off quickly. He was more than able to handle my monsters on the left flank. The big thing was his wizard blowing herself up. He had some buff spells he could have gotten off that would have helped swing some of those battles, because he had the flaming swords, which certainly would have helped. And he could have taken out like my general, which could have been problematic, and stuff like that. But blowing the wizard up and taking her off the board certainly put me in a situation where I was able to capitalize on it. I also have almost come to the decision at this point with Ogre Cons that it's almost not worth taking the mercenaries. I think I would almost be better off for the same amount of points as 6 mercenaries of going with like 9 more ogre tribesmen, and just having 2 big bricks and put my general in one and my BSB and the caster in the other, and just run them straight into things. But all in all, I thought my list was pretty good. Shamanism is an okay lore, but I think I prefer pyromancy, and probably will go back to using like the Firebelly style build for a while. Pyromancy is just so good. Like, I would argue that it's probably the best lore in the game right now, and I don't like not having it. But all in all, I thought my list was pretty strong. My opponent's list was good. I think his deployment was bad. He had put his Lion's Guard behind his big units, which essentially let me take them out first. If he had deployed them more onto the sides, he would have been a little better off, I think. I think if he had kind of pushed his whole deployment to the left so that the center of his line was on top of the hill as opposed to where it was, and then he could have fit the Lion's Guard up on the front line, that probably would have been better. because he would have been able to do some some combo charges and get the Lion's Guard in to combat quicker, which certainly would have caused me some problems, particularly if he had been able to get any of those units into the flank of my ogres. Would have been certainly bad. I think I've decided the best way to deal with Phoenix Guard is not even try and beat them to death, just bury them under combat res and pray that they break. Because they're hard to kill with that 4-up ward save. So, but all in all, I thought it was a fun game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Want to just mention my Patreon for those who haven't heard about it. If you would like to help support me and the channel and what we do here, certainly go to the link below. I want to thank everyone who is already donating money, and it certainly is appreciated. If a couple of the rewards for donations, you guys can choose to add characters to our narrative or even make up lists for me to have to play. So definitely go check those out and see if that's something that interests you. Hope you guys enjoyed this one as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.